So after three siblings walk into a bar, I'm Storm, the youngest sibling.
I'm Deshay, the oldest sibling.
And I'm Sage, the middle sibling.
Oh my gosh. So we're obsessed with scary movies in this house.
Yes.
And Stinky was like, can we watch The Strangers? And I said,
Oh,
you
God.
can watch The Strangers. I'm going to go in my bed.
Yeah.
And he said, well, but it's dark outside. And I said, okay, you can watch it.
Right.
I'm going to go in my bedroom.
Yeah.
And then he was like, well, can I watch the trailer for the new one? I said, you can watch the trailer for the new one. I've already seen it. I don't want to watch it again. And then he watched it and he was like, this is confusing. Do I have to watch the first one to watch this one? And I said, no, it's a remake. Like, you don't have to watch it. And he's like, I don't get it.
What do you not get?
You don't get? What do you not understand?
Yeah.
Whatever. And so then we were talking about, I'm a big M. Night Shyamalan fan.
Yeah.
And I know people hate him, but I quite enjoy his movies.
Yeah.
And did you know? Shit. She's the Man. You know he directed that?
What? For real?
Because I was telling, we were talking about, because Richard's one of the like anti M. Night Shyamalan fans. And so I was like, name off his movies and I'll tell you which ones are bad and which ones are good. Because some of them really are bad, you know? And he was like, She's the Man? He directed that? And I said, what? I had no idea. But also, that's one of the good ones.
Exactly.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Have you seen the preview for the new Trap movie by M. Night Shyamalan? Shyamalan.
Yes, I've seen it all over TikTok.
Oh my God.
I haven't seen it yet.
So good. So it's it's this dad and this daughter, and they go to this big concert for some girl. And the daughter's
Josh
so
Hartnett.
excited.
Oh my God. I didn't recognize him. Okay. Yeah.
He's old.
Yeah.
And then there's all these cops and police everywhere. And then one of the employees tells him that there's this serial killer that's supposedly supposed to be in the concert that night. And so they have everything set up so that no one can get out and they'll be able to get him. Well, then he goes into the bathroom and he pulls up a security camera on his phone of some guy locked up somewhere, like screaming for help and trying to get out.
Oh my God.
Anyway, so he's a serial killer. And then, so I guess the movie's going to be like him trying to get out of
the concert.
That's insane.
Yeah. And I was telling him, I'm like, there's always like a big twist to the end of all of his movies.
Yeah.
And so we were like going through some of them with Stinky with movies I knew he wasn't ever going to watch, like The Village and Signs and stuff. And then we were talking about The Sixth Sense. And I was like, that one I'm not going to tell you the end to because we'll watch that one. That's a really good one. And he was like, well, what's it about? So I told him. And then he goes, oh, he's dead, isn't he? He's been dead the whole time. And I was like, what the hell? Nobody was able to guess that, but you, just because I said something.
Yeah, he is that kind of kid, though. Like, very analytical.
Yeah.
So that makes sense to me, that he would say something like that. Is it the same one that, like, funny. The YouTube videos started coming out, like, a year ago, and it's just, like, it's like home videos? Am I thinking of something different? There's another one where, like,
something different.
A year ago, it's like home videos and it's like a birthday party or something. And it's just like this family. And then it's a 911 call and the dad's on the phone and it's like something about his daughter. And then he sees her and he like starts to say her name and he goes, that's not my daughter. And then the call hangs up. It must be a different movie, but like, this is what...
I have no idea.
I don't know what's real anymore for movies and, like, TikTok and shit, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I always have to ask a bunch of shit.
It's okay. I literally I've all of a sudden become obsessed with plants. And so I've been, like, researching on how to take care of certain plants and stuff. And I literally dreamed last night that I watered my plants because there's like certain ways you have to water certain plants. And so I literally had a dream that I watered my plants. And so I woke up in the morning and I was like, wait a minute. did I dream that or did I actually water my plants at some
Exactly.
point? And so then I had to go around and check to see if I watered
Yes.
them. And I was like, no, I didn't. I dreamt that.
I don't,
literally dreamt I was watering plants.
yeah, I don't like my dreams. I don't remember them. Apparently you dream every single night. It's just whether you remember them or not. But I don't normally remember them unless it's like
some of them, yeah.
mundane tasks. Like if I'm going to work or like driving to the airport or like that's the shit that I remember, which is so weird.
So whenever you're you're not really dreaming. So your brain is, that's why they tell you to like, if you have something you need to remember, do it right before you go to bed. Because when you sleep, your brain's like putting it into storage. So it'll literally like replay your entire day.
Interesting.
But then you'll wake up and like, that's why like if you watch a scary movie, you might have a nightmare because you don't have a dream about, because you're not really remembering, you're not having a nightmare, like you're remembering.
Right.
Whatever.
That's so interesting. Fascinating.
So fascinating.
Speaking of TikTok, I've gone down so many rabbit holes. Have you guys heard the one about, what is his name? Edgar Degas. There's this girl that thinks
Edgar Degas.
Yeah, he painted like the ballerinas. If you think about
the really famous ballerinas.
Yeah, you'll know.
The ones that don't have faces.
Yeah. There's a girl that thinks that he is Jack the Ripper. And I've gone down all of the rabbit holes. And like the only faces that he did had names on the back of them of like specific girls. And something about he had some kind of disease that was making him go blind. And he was losing his frontal cortex. So he was like becoming a bad person, basically. And he was fascinated with how anatomy worked, and he would liken women to like horses almost. Like he just wanted to know how they worked. And there's something about like the precision of the cuts of Jack the Ripper. Like they weren't done with a steady hand, but he knew exactly where everything was. So he's a painter. He may not have had like the most steady hand, but he knew where everything was because he was classically trained. So he had to have seen like autopsies and all kinds of stuff. So it's freaking fascinating.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And then like, is that
there's a
normal
whole bunch of stuff
to like,
that's weird,
to have painted people back in the day to like need to watch autopsies to know how the body works? Like that's crazy.
I don't know if it was like super commonplace, but it was a well-known thing that most painters have seen at least one dead body before.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah,
and he apparently like hated women. Hated women.
Yeah. And the creepiest one is the ballerina statue. Have you seen that one? The one with the fabric skirt and the hair. It's really unsettling to see, but it's like it's a bronze statue, I believe, but it's a little girl, and he made her features more simple. So just research it, but it's really creepy to like look at. But they put clothes on the statue because the girl was something is going on. Something is there.
Yeah.
It has to be something. It's so weird.
Something is crazy.
Fascinating.
That's nuts.
I can't look at that.
I'm sure I'll see it now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Insane.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I need to stop watching those TikToks for real.
I do too, but I can't because I'm like, this is just the same thing over again. And then they say something new and I'm like, yeah, just more. Yeah.
I know. I just watched one about how they're losing the poor in America because people like see how expensive stuff is and like are working really hard, and like they like the teen pregnancy rate has gone way down and birth rate in general has gone way down.
Interesting.
And so they think that they're going to start like doing laws and stuff like Roe versus Wade. And they think that the next one's going to be like the school education system. They're going to do something with that to like,
oh my God,
make people get bad educations so that way they'll have more and more poor people. And I'm like, what? Stop it. But the way, I know that sounds silly, but the way that he like explained it and like pulled all the things out of his hat, and I was like, makes sense.
Some of those videos with like the music and shit, I'm like, girl, that part. I know that.
Yeah, it's real.
It's very that.
Yes.
The way our government works, that doesn't shock me.
Not really.
At all.
It's a joke.
Yeah.
It's a joke.
Like,
I hate it.
Yeah. It's ridiculous.
We have very specific opinions.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen?
I know. I always have to be careful about who I bring them up. Like today, I had made a comment about how much I hate Walmart, and then I felt like I needed to go back and go, not just because I hate Walmart. It's just because like the parking lot's bad. You know, like I had to like.
I'm imagining you like in an office, like walking in, and then you say, "Fuck Walmart! I fucking hate Walmart," and you leave. And then you like come back and stick your head back in and just like make one more comment and then leave. And then have to come back and say one more. That's what I'm imagining.
Oh my gosh. Well, we were talking about, because there was this other house originally, before we bought our first house in Anna, there was another house in Princeton that we were looking at that had like a way bigger yard and everything. But the brick wall of the fence literally lined into a Walmart parking lot.
Yeah.
And then I was like, yeah, but I hate Walmart, so I didn't want to do that. And then I was like, you know, because like Walmart parking sucks, you know? Hate it. Hate Walmart parking. Anyway, don't get me started.
Yeah. Oh my God.
It's a beating having to go there.
It really is.
So I was up until almost 5 o'clock this morning watching Baby Reindeer. Have you guys seen that yet?
Oh, God.
Not swerve.
Not like literal
Not
baby
actual
reindeer.
Baby Reindeer.
Stop it. Look, I'm going to pull into Shay. I've started working out. My whole body is sore right now.
It's
Stop
just like
it.
a live feed of
Oh
like
my
actual
gosh.
Baby Reindeer. And I'm just like 5 o'clock in the morning.
That's what I was envisioning. I was like...
So this is just going to be like an ad for Baby Reindeer.
This?
But just go watch the preview for it. So it's there's a whole bunch of shit that goes on. But basically this guy is being stalked. And it's a true story from like real life, and the guy who is the actor in the show, it actually happened to him. Like he's the real guy from real life too. So there's like interviews and shit, and he's like, it was really hard for me, but it was really cathartic at the same time. But now I'm getting videos of like the real stalker, like at his shows, like you can hear her laughing and shit. Like it's very, very interesting, and I would highly suggest it. But it's very hard to watch. There's like, I think it's like 8 episodes, and they're like 30 minutes a piece. But it's very hard to watch because there's a lot of really fucked up shit that happens to him. But it's super interesting, and I couldn't stop watching it. It was a lot.
Oh my gosh. That doesn't sound as fun as actual.
Exactly.
Yeah, like a literal baby reindeer. Let's watch that instead.
That's when I first saw it. I like when you scroll past it, it's like this woman at a bar, and she's just like has this really crazy, like loud laugh, and this guy's just smiling. So I'm like, this has got to be like a comedy. And then I start watching it, and I'm like, this is not even close to a comedy. This is not what I thought it was. It's very good though.
Oh, that sounds horrible.
Yeah. It's there's a lot of trigger warnings, but it's very interesting.
Could you imagine being stalked? Actually, it's a pretty good segue into my story.
Hell yeah. That wasn't even planned.
And also, speaking of better than normal, I figured we could use a little break from some of our stories because they've been a little gnarly.
Yeah.
So this one isn't like easy, but it's not going to be like going to make you cry or whatever. It's going to be like, what's that TikTok sound where he's like, "Oh, you want to get fucked up?" That's how you're going to feel listening to this story.
All right, let's do it.
I'm nervous. Anyway, I was watching 48 Hour, and I was watching this episode, and I was literally getting that, ooh, you want to get fucked up? I was getting in that mood, and then I was like, I'm going to tell this story because I was
So we're
pissed.
just going to be like really mad.
Fine.
Yeah.
Yes. Speaking of government-run agencies that we don't
Sweet.
like.
Oh, geez.
Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Anyway, okay. So this is in Lafayette, Louisiana. Schanda Handley had a friend come over, and they were, chit-chatting, hanging out. And about 10 minutes later, 2 men knock on the door. She opens the door and they say that they're delivery guys. And she's like, no, like, thank you, but like, I don't have time for this right now. I'm not going to do that. And so she goes to shut the door. The guys pull guns on her and push themselves into her house. Her and her friend are placed into handcuffs, and Schanda starts yelling, like, I have money, I have precious jewels, I have, jewelry, I have, like, I can get you money, like, just take whatever you want. And they didn't care. They didn't want money. They wanted nothing to do with anything. They wanted Schanda. So they take Schanda and they walk her out of the house and they put her into the back of a white van. It's one of those vans, your typical
van.
What you think of van, doesn't have any, windows, all of that. They put her in the back of the van. The two guys go back inside. Her 14-year-old daughter that just watched all of this is inside. They ask her to come with them. She says no, and then they just leave her.
That's really weird.
What?
Weird.
Okay,
so they leave her there, and then they drive off. They're driving. Once they start driving, only one person is driving, and the other one sits on top of her and has a gun to her head the entire time. And he's threatening to rape her. He's threatening to kill her. Everything. And then he strips her of her clothes. They get to a point where they're starting to pick up speed. So we're like, okay, on the interstate or the highway, not a good sign. Or maybe a good sign. I guess
depends on where you are.
At least you're not going to like a remote. Yeah.
Right.
But also you could be taken to her really
quickly.
Far away.
Yeah.
Yeah. So remember this, because you're going to get to a point and you're going to go, oh, that makes me so mad. But they give her 2 white pills and they start making her really dizzy and like she's kind of like coming in and out of consciousness. And they hit traffic because there was a wreck on the highway and a cop pulls up behind them. It's probably about an hour or so after they had left her house. And the police officer says, I could tell he was nervous because he kept looking in his rearview mirror. He just kept looking at me. He couldn't pay attention. And he was actually on his way home. Like he was clocked out.
That happens so much.
And he was like,
that happens so often.
He was like, he could tell, he just,
exactly.
And how shitty, right? Like, I'm fucking on my way home. I want to go home. Like, God. So then the guy, the van pulls into the shoulder and speeds away. And the police officer's like, something's not right. Like, this is not, like, that was weird. So then he turns his lights on, his sirens on, and he goes after him. They pull off into this, it would have been like a dead end. I can't explain it. I guess if you've ever seen like the swamps of Louisiana, he like pulls off into this little area. They get stuck in the mud. The 2 guys jump out of the van and start running.
Okay.
I lost my spot because I knew what I was going to say for the next 2 points. And now I'm like, damn it.
I do that all the time.
Okay, so they ran into the Intercoastal Waterway. So that's just a really long, it goes most of the East Coast. Never eat salty water. Yeah, the East Coast. And then it goes down through into Brownsville, Texas. And that's really what we use to like deliver goods via boat up and down that. So 1, the current is insane. 2, the amount of boats that go up and down that. Like you're not, whatever. Anyway, so they jump into there and then there was a fisherman who actually saw them like swimming, like dog paddling. And one of them points a gun at him and goes, "Stay cool, dude." And then kept dog paddling. Like,
awesome.
So silly, right? Like, what is this?
Oh my God.
They swim off and then they eventually find them drowned because of the currents floating in the river. They were identified as Sylvester Bracey and Arsenal Haynes were their names. The police officer, so after they ran off, the police officer goes to search the van. He opens the back of the van, sees what he thinks is a mannequin, and then it moves. And he said, he said, I got scared. I thought it was a mannequin, so it moved. I jumped back and slammed the door shut. And I'm like, I can only imagine. I would have shot it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I thought you were going to say.
Like, it's crazy. So he opens the door back up. Obviously, she's naked. She's handcuffed. And he said the worst part about it was she immediately looked at him and said, are you the real police or are you here to kill me?
Hmm.
Like, could you imagine saying that and then just immediately thinking like, and he immediately said, you are safe. And his name was Chad Martin, Officer Chad Martin. So obviously they're getting her and they're taking her to the hospital. And Schanda says, I know who's behind this. And it was her, she said it was her husband, Michael Handley. And she said that he had paid those men to kill her. So I'm going to tell you, in my brain, the first time I heard her say that she thought it was her ex-husband, I was like, okay, and rolled my eyes. And then I'm going to tell the rest of the story, and you're going to be pissed at me and everybody else in the story. So they pretty much had a fairy tale love story. They were single parents. They got out of really bad divorces. She was 18 years sober and he was 1 year sober. So they had that. They were leaning on each other. They got married about a year later. Isabella, her 14-year-old daughter at the time, she's 2 now, that when they got married, she was like, that was my dad. Like, I met him when I was 2. I always see, like, he was my dad. In 2007, they partnered with a doctor and opened multiple addiction treatment centers. So they said they had at one point, they had about 14 centers all along the South to help people with addiction.
Okay.
So 8 years later, they decided to sell the company, and they got, between the doctor and Michael, they got $21.5 million.
Dang.
What did you say his name was? That name sounds so familiar to me. Michael Handley.
Michael Handley. And, so after that, they're kind of, they've got all this money. They're kind of hanging out, chilling, not working. And in 2017, she finds a bottle of Adderall with his name on it. And so she's scared. She's like, oh my gosh, he's using, he's going to start doing drugs again, She's scared for him. And she, yells at him about it. She's like, this can lead to bigger things. You could die. So, what if you died? And so then she also finds out that he's having an affair.
Holy shit.
And at this point, she's like, who the hell is this man? She's like, we were best friends. Like, we loved each other. She was like, he treated me better than anyone's ever treated me.
Oh my God. I can only imagine.
And so she told him, like, you're going to go get treatment. You have to go. And he refused to go. So she changed the locks on the house. And Michael's pissed, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, I would have been too. Granted, like, you got to do what you got to do, because I probably would have done the same thing. Especially, like, you also being sober. You can't have that around you, So he started saying things along the lines of, like, you're going to regret this. Like, this is going to be bad for you. Something bad's going to happen to you. And he at one point accused her of assaulting him, and she got charged for assault. And then later a judge acquitted her. So after that didn't work, he started doing worse and worse things. He started stalking her. He would let her know, I always know where you're at. I always know. He was threatening to kill her, and he was threatening to hurt her daughter, which is, I mean, not his daughter, but like, you've been with her since she was 2. Like, that's your daughter.
It is, yeah.
Schanda said no one believed her. She had called the police multiple times. She had made all these different, what's the word I'm thinking of? Reports to the police, everything. And nothing. Her divorce attorney was able to get a restraining order against him.
Yeah.
Thankfully.
Exactly.
Somebody was doing something. But he would, keep in mind, this man is rich. He's got millions of dollars. So he got this app on his phone so that anytime he'd call her, it was a different phone number.
Yep.
And so she couldn't ever track and prove, like, no, that's him. He called me.
Yeah.
Like, this was him. And he would change his voice so you couldn't understand what he was saying. Like, you could understand what he was saying, but you would not be able to tell it was him. Oh, and he was able to spy on her through her laptop camera. And all of her security cameras, he was able to break into and was, like, watching her through her security cameras.
That's fucking
I just
creepy,
don't
man.
understand being that obsessed with somebody. I don't get it.
I don't get it. I don't get it.
Ruin your entire life to like see this person. I just don't understand. No.
It makes no sense. Like,
no.
Yeah.
It makes me so angry. And can you imagine her, like, how scary?
And nobody believes her.
Yeah. So scary.
Yeah.
Like, you can't do anything.
It's like, sorry. If you go to the police and it has, like, unknown phone numbers, they're going to be like, everybody gets unknown phone numbers. So, like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's so hard to prove.
Yeah. Which sucks. Because it's like, you want to protect the people that, like, a scorned lover might be saying that they are stalking them or something when they're not really. Like, you obviously want to protect those people, but, like, we need to find a way to protect. Like, stalking is so hard.
Yeah.
Legally to, like, get help with. So scary. So in September of 2017, Michael filed for divorce. And then he decided that he didn't want to file for divorce and that he thought that they should probably get back together.
Yeah, okay. That's a good idea.
Okay. And he said that if she did not agree to it, that he was going to he was going to release their intimate videos that they had made to people in town.
Wow.
She refused. She was like, no. Like, she was like, this is not safe. Like, I cannot have this man back in my house. And so he did. He sent videos to her cousins, her uncles, her daughter's school administration, some of her political friends, her neighbors.
It is so fucked up.
Wow.
Everybody. She said that she just went home that night and she just cried and cried.
Isn't that...
I mean, like, how do you do... I mean, like, you couldn't even walk into your daughter's school without being
like, that has to be a crime within itself. The distribution of it.
Well, it is, if they can't prove it's him.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, true.
Don't tape it, people. Just don't tape it.
I mean, I just couldn't even imagine. Like, you can't even walk outside.
Yeah.
Like, your own fucking family. You'd be like, please don't look at me. I know
what you've seen.
What you saw.
Like,
I can't. So on June 8th, 2017, Michael snuck into her house through the garage, which is why I hate getting in and out of my car through the garage. Because I always,
ever since the first Scream, I have never trusted garages. Period. That movie ruined garages for me.
Yes. And I feel like I just watched a scary movie the other day where they went in through the garage.
Wouldn't surprise me.
It was one of the Paranormal Activities.
Oh, yeah.
It was like the 17th one or something.
The one where they're in space.
Okay, so he snuck in through the garage and she said that he was just mad. Like, insanely mad. She'd never seen him this way before. And he was drunk and he reeked of alcohol. And he had a gun and he pinned her to the wall and put the gun to her head. And he told her, because she originally had screamed for Isabella. And he told her, if her or anyone comes and breaks this apart, I will kill you and her.
Jesus.
So it was about hours later, she finally was able to talk him into leaving. And again, she said, the second I watched him walk out the door and shut the gate, I went and locked every single door, every single window, and I just screamed and cried. And I'm like, and again, why could he not get arrested for that? You broke into my house, which is not okay. You pulled a gun on me, which is not okay. Like, so she calls the police, and again, they didn't arrest him. And at this point, so I would say the entire time I'm watching this show, she's staying very calm. She's just talking. She's just telling her story. But at this part, she starts crying. Like the part, she starts crying. And the interviewer was like, "Why are you getting upset?" And she was like, I felt like I was a liar. Like nobody believed me. And they kept trying to tell me that this isn't real.
Yeah.
And she was like, I was terrified. She at one point says that kidnapping was a blessing.
Because it showed everybody. Damn.
Oh. Yeah.
Ugh. So she had made over a couple dozen reports. 0 arrests were made, and the police said and the detective said that they didn't have enough for an arrest warrant. Breaking into somebody's house and threatening to kill them isn't enough for an arrest warrant.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
It's probably some legality bullshit. That his name was on the house or something. Stupid. But she had a restraining order against him.
Well, yeah, but he also has a ton of money.
Yeah.
And probably has a lot of pool in there. True. Like, let's be real.
Yeah.
Okay. Now that we're all pissed, let's keep going. Okay, so fast forward to after the kidnapping. To prove that Michael was behind all this was going to be really difficult because the 2 guys that had actually kidnapped her died because they drowned. Well, so they thought. See how smart Michael is. They run the VIN number on the van, and it comes back as rented from Enterprise in Baton Rouge. So they go to the Enterprise in Baton Rouge, and they're like, "Hey, can you tell us where this van came from?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, a man named Michael Handley rented it."
Fucking idiot.
They're like, "Oh, okay." And then they were watching this store camera for this place called Barney's Police Store. You want to guess what Michael bought?
Oh my god.
Some handcuffs.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
That's weird. Okay.
Mr. Handley.
Anyway, so now they're like, cool. We can connect him to the kidnapping, but now we have to find him.
And he's rich, yeah.
He's rich. And it's been a long time since she got kidnapped. Right. Not a long time, but like a day. But still, when you're rich, you only need like 20 minutes.
Carol Baskin's husband.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what they decide to do, the best thing they're going to do, because she's going to get out of the hospital. So they're like, okay, we're going to put her in a safe house until we can find him. And honestly, they were kind of hoping that he would like come to her house or, so they were like, well, let's throw her over here so we can keep an eye on her. And then we'll keep an eye on this. So there was a marked car and a deputy in front of her house at all times.
Okay.
They were not allowed visitors, no deliveries, nothing until Michael was found. So Michael had tried to get a private plane in Baton Rouge, but the pilot, I don't know how the pilot knew this. I'm assuming maybe it was like all over the news, but the pilot wouldn't fly him anywhere because he had a warrant out for his arrest. And so he was like, no, I'm not flying you. And so then maybe
probably
like
for
a
their
private
safety. Yeah, I would think so.
So then he reports it to the police, and by the time the police get there, of course, Michael's gone.
He's gone. Yeah.
So while all that's going on between like police trying to get to Baton Rouge, to the airport, all the things, Schanda gets a text message on her phone that reads, "Schanda Handley, since you are choosing to not pay the ransom for your husband, we are going to post videos and pictures of you." It was blurred out, so I'm not sure what it said. I'm assuming something bad. On other websites every hour and send out by text to random email addresses and phone numbers from your husband's phone contacts until you deal with us. Somebody is going to pay us $500 large, or we will send him home in pieces, and we will make sure the world sees who you really are.
What the fuck? What is happening?
Okay. Yeah.
I'm going to take a sippy because
so
I'm
it's
irritated.
Either him trying to just like get shit, or he was kidnapped too, which is very unlikely.
Yeah.
Maybe. So the next day, family members received pictures of Michael nude, handcuffed, and injured. So the picture that was sent, he's got like a ball gag in his mouth. His hands are behind his back, and he's got like blood across his forehead running down his face. It literally looked like ketchup.
Yeah.
Storm's not salty at all.
So it was. So I'm like,
yes.
Well, I'm like, this poor
Yes.
woman. Like, I can only imagine. Like, I've never had to go through anything this scary in my life. Like, and nobody
Stalkers
believes
are a different type
nobody
of person. It's so wild.
It's crazy. So it was made to look like Shanda's kidnappers, but they were dead, and Michael didn't know that. So he's making it seem like whatever, because he's a freaking idiot. On August 11th, 2017, in Slidell, Louisiana, they find Michael in a Motel 8. They had taken him into custody, and they literally have pictures of them walking him out of the hotel room handcuffed, and he's like smiling, like posing for pictures, like whatever.
I mean, at this point, he's gotten away with everything, so he's probably thinking,
exactly,
I'm good.
Exactly. So in the room, they find $10,000 in cash, pizza boxes, and drugs. They also find a to-do list. Some things on the to-do list were burner phone, hair dye, new location. Shanda's safe house is 35 miles away. Internet, cash, train. There was something else I couldn't really read because it's handwriting. And the very last thing on the to-do list was finish the job. So they were assuming that meant kill Schanda.
Yeah.
So when Michael Handley gets put in jail, Schanda and Isabella get to go home. Isabella, I don't really know how old I think she was like 20 in this documentary I was watching. And she was like, I was terrified. I didn't think he was going to stay there. She was like, nothing had ever worked before. She was like, I was so scared to go home. And I'm like, that's horrible.
No.
You should not be afraid
to go.
So anyway, Michael pleads not guilty.
Of course.
To all of his charges. Because he's an idiot. Michael's lawyer says that there wasn't enough physical evidence to convict him. And that what happened was Michael had hired some furniture movers.
Michael
he had rented that van to move the furniture. Because who would rent a van to kidnap somebody and not try to keep it?
They're basically saying, like, this is so stupid. Like, no one would do this. Like, so he can't be guilty.
Yeah.
Okay, Michael.
Exactly. And he had bought those handcuffs to stage a photo because he used to send Schanda videos and pictures of him crying and begging for her to come back to him. And he had before sent her pictures of him beaten up, thinking it would give him sympathy. So his lawyer's saying he had just bought the handcuffs to stage a photo to send her for sympathy. I'm like, either way, it doesn't matter. That's disgusting. And she had a restraining order and he shouldn't have been contacting her, period. So during all of this, where they're trying to get all their evidence and everything put together to finally start trial, Schanda was cleaning out a remote property that they have. And she finds a camera. And it was a security camera. And it was one that Michael used, and Michael took with him everywhere. It's his security camera that he took with him. There are hundreds of hours of footage on it.
Yeah.
So they're like, dope. Let's watch this. A few days before the kidnapping, there's a video of him in a hotel room. And he looks like he's picking up the camera like off the side table. He puts it in the bag, and then he just says, I'm going to kill her. I'm going to kill her. And then that's that. There's another video of him talking to a friend in the living room, and they were kind of sitting there like, he's talking about the issues with Schanda, and the friend's like, you're both really stubborn. I don't know that you're going to break. She won't break, like almost like he's about to say, you just need to like give it up.
Yeah.
And then he gets up and like sidebar goes, well, that's why she's going to die. And then like walks away.
I get it.
Okay. Cool. Yes. 2 weeks before the kidnapping, there's a video of Michael talking with one of the kidnappers at that remote cabin, and they're talking about what a perfect spot it was going to be to bring her there and torture her, and that it was going to be it was so hard and impossible for anybody to get there. Nobody was going to be able to break in. And then the Sylvester says, yeah, and it'll be impossible for her to break out.
Yeah.
Oh, he's fucked now.
So at this point, the defense changes their tactics. Obviously, they have to. And then they're saying that he's not guilty for reasons of insanity. Because they were like, he was a great guy. He used to help everybody. They had a great relationship. And then he started doing drugs. And then now he's acting like this. So he's got mental problems and he's on drugs. So that's why he's acting that way.
Everyone just take a deep breath.
Anyway, so at this point, the prosecutors are like, F no. Like, you just want him in a hospital. But a hospital doesn't have enough security to keep him like a jail does. We're not doing that. Not happening. And we need to make sure that Shanda's safe. Like, top priority is Shanda's safety, and him being in a mental hospital is not that. So he does end up getting a couple therapists, or I guess psychiatrist opinions. Yeah. Some of them agree that he does have some issues. Some of them don't. Either way, the judge declares that he is competent to stand trial.
Good.
In March of 2018, the divorce is finalized and Schanda is rewarded all assets.
Good.
So I hear that and I'm like, fuck yeah, that girl is set. Just wait.
He spent it all.
Michael has no money. None. The money is gone. Michael's one of the, the conspiracy theorists that we were talking about. He thought that America was going to collapse at like any second. So he had traded in all of his money for gold.
Oh,
but
no.
They couldn't find the gold. They have no clue where it's at. And they've never found it. Even to this day, they have no clue where all this money went.
I mean, gold is smart,
millions and millions of
not
dollars.
Not that much.
And
jeez,
nothing.
Can you imagine the person that just like falls upon
so
that?
So also, since she's stuck with everything,
I just found millions of dollars worth of gold.
Yeah, like they just buy they buy that remote cabin. Well, apparently the family had went and like with what are they called, metal detectors, and had went all through their land by that cabin or whatever, and they never were able to find anything. But yes, that would be totally dope. But she also got stuck with over $700,000. So she's got no money, and now she's got all this debt that she's now responsible to pay back. So Shanda's divorce attorney, this woman, her divorce attorney is like a total badass, and you can tell like she had Shanda's back 110%. Like she was always on her side. And so anyway, she asks Michael for a deposition for the divorce case, but of course she tells prosecutors, I'm going to give you everything. Like and obviously his defense attorney is like, we are well aware that everything that he says during this deposition, she's going to give that to the prosecutors. So the defense attorneys are terrified, but Michael wants to do it. He wants to tell his side of the story.
Exactly. Yeah.
Don't ever do that. Freaking idiots. Don't ever do that. Like, I'm glad he did.
Don't.
But if you're ever in Michael's shoes, do not do that. Okay, so he was questioned for about 10 hours over 3 days. He had stuck with his story that he had hired them to move. They figured out how much money he had, and so they decided to kidnap Schanda for ransom money. Every time they asked, like, when he met Sylvester, how he met Sylvester, how the conversations with about how he was going to move furniture and everything he said was, I don't know. I don't remember. I don't recall. I don't really remember that. Everything. And he said that he doesn't remember a lot of it because he was high the whole time. And he said, I would never kidnap my wife and I would never hurt her.
Put a gun to her
You
head.
fucking broke into her house and threatened to shoot her with a gun in her face. Okay.
Yeah.
Just like getting more and more mad. I hate this man. So during the deposition, the divorce attorney shows Michael a video of him talking to the kidnapper. So it was the same time that they were talking about how hard it was going to be for her to break out. And he shows her a video of them talking, and the kidnapper says to him, if she gets out of line, I have no problem killing her. And so the attorney says,
exactly.
What mover would say something like that? And then he says, I don't know, Christine. People tell me all sorts of stuff. And she said before he said anything, the fear that hit his face. I can
only imagine.
When he saw that video.
Yeah. He's fucked.
And I'm like, yeah, because he knows.
Right.
He knows all the other shit that they watched on that camera. So after all the questioning was over, they send the deposition to the prosecutors. And the prosecutors are watching this and they were like, fuck yeah, he put holes all in his story. Like he effed himself big time. So the defenders are pretty sure at this point, they're like, okay, he is going to get charged with something.
Yeah.
Like if this goes to trial, he's going to get charged. So they decide to open up a plea bargain. And he said that he would plead guilty to second-degree kidnapping, which has a sentence of 15, max 35. And the prosecutors were like, okay, but it's going to be up to Schanda. Like, this is her choice. Because we don't want to make this decision. So Shanda's like, I was terrified to go to trial because he's been able to weasel his way out of everything else.
Yeah.
I couldn't take that risk of them saying he wasn't guilty. So she agreed to the plea bargain on on March 24th, 2022. They show up for Michael's sentencing. So I'm not sure of everybody that knows, but usually on sentencing, victims are allowed to give a victim statement or like an impact statement. And then the person that's going to get sentenced also gets to say something. And that is supposed to help sway the judge as to what his sentence is going to be. So Isabella gets up and she tells her story, and she says that she told them about how hard it's made her life so far, and how hard it still makes her life, and how hard it is still going to make her life in the future. And then Schanda went up there and talked to Michael and said, you destroyed everything. She was like, we were so happy. We had everything. We had a good life. We had the perfect family. And you ruined everything.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, could you imagine? I would just cry.
Yeah.
Like, it's literally a man that you love. Like, they really did have such a good, happy marriage and a life. And then it's like crumbled. And I just couldn't imagine. So then Michael gets to talk.
Tell me about it, Michael.
Jesus.
Again, if you are ever in this predicament, if you are ever a Michael, just beg, really, and apologize profusely. Because you're going to get sentenced regardless. So, right? I mean, so Michael says, well, everything I said was a lie. I did hire the kidnappers to kidnap her. But it was fake. They weren't ever going to really hurt her. I hired them to fake kidnap her so that I could go in, swoop in, save the day, and then she would take me back because I saved her.
Wow.
Does he has to believe some part of this? He has to believe it.
I don't know.
I mean, yeah.
I mean, he
oh
might.
My God.
He's just... So, the judge says, Michael, you were sentenced to 35 years.
Good.
It was -5 for time already served. So he would get out when he's 79 years old. Schanda was happy with it. She said, I wish he wouldn't get out at all, but I'm happy with that. And She sold a couple properties. She got a loan. She's opened 2 sober living homes to help women
That's awesome.
in her same situation.
Good for her. That's awesome.
So that is her and what she's doing. And then Isabella was in college. So
Jesus. What a fucking idiot, man.
He's so freaking stupid.
Like, literally.
Exactly.
I'm like, you're literally a millionaire.
Yeah.
Yes.
You literally could have gotten away with so much shit that the normal person could not.
He
And
convinced himself
so
enough that he needed to be with her, that he had to do this stupid shit. That's the scary thing about stalkers, is they can convince themselves of these things. And they're like, oh my God. Like they,
yeah.
I don't know. I just don't get it. But it's so wild.
And I'm like, I feel like you don't genuinely, and I feel like at that point you don't genuinely know.
Right. Yeah.
What love is, right? Like, you know, because that's not
that's
what
like that's like a panic, like fight or flight type thing.
Maybe
like,
it is
I'm going to lose the thing that I've worked for my entire life, and I don't know what to do. So I have to fight for it, is what is happening. It sounds like. Ugh, I hate it. Exactly.
I wonder where the gold is.
Right? I'm like, let's go to Louisiana.
Okay, so he had a bunch of property.
Let's go searching around.
He had a bunch of facilities. He wasn't able to get a private plane.
She has to have some sort of idea.
Who knows? It's got to be in Louisiana somewhere.
Because I mean, he had to have had enough money. I don't know how much a private plane would cost because I don't know where he was going. Or I'm assuming he was trying to get to Lafayette because his safe house on his checklist said 35 miles from Shanda's safe house. So I'm assuming he was trying to get there. So it couldn't have been too long of a flight. But still, a private plane can't be cheap.
I just got one a few days ago to go to work. Yeah, I can only imagine. What is 35 miles from her safe house? Is he going to be 35 miles from her? Yeah. So where was her safe house?
The buried treasure.
These are the questions.
Telling you.
Well, it was right. Her actual safe house was 35 miles outside Lafayette. Yeah. I hope I'm saying that correctly.
Okay.
So he was in Baton Rouge, which I'm like, did you really think that if you rented a car in a different city that they weren't going to be able to track it? You know what I mean? Like, whatever. But I'm like, you couldn't have had a
You have millions of dollars.
Anybody.
You can like literally do anything. You'll be like, you can,
Yes, you could have literally bought a van off the side of the road and given someone like $100,000 and they would have not asked any questions.
Do you think that he buried the gold and then forgot where he buried it? And that's why he wasn't... that's why he wasn't like super pressed about it?
Probably. Yeah. Or also maybe he just didn't want the government to find it. Because if he was so afraid of the government in the first place, I'm like, maybe he was worried that like...
millions of dollars in gold. That's like... I've been watching way too much Netflix, but that's like Vikings, like thinking they're going to get that shit in Valhalla. Like, that's not how that shit works. So, also, Louisiana, why would you bury something in Louisiana? It's a swamp.
It's just going to get floated away.
Yeah.
Well, and I was thinking too, I'm terrified of alligators. I have this weird fear of alligators. Have we talked about this before?
Yep.
I have this like total fear that one day I'm going to get attacked by an alligator. That's like why I don't like Florida very much.
We talked about that when we were in the SkyTram over one of the main reasons I don't like going to Disney. Yeah.
Like literally at Disney World.
Yeah. But yeah, like heights don't scare me. It was like over the swamp and I was like, I swear to God, if I see an alligator, I'm going to punch her right in the face. Like I can't. Anyway. But I was thinking about the guys swimming in the intercoastal river, and I wasn't worried about like the current. I'm like, they're gonna get eaten by an alligator. There's gotta be alligators. There's gotta be like anacondas. Like, there's gotta be something in there that's gonna eat them. And there's some parts of that is salt water. I'm like, there's gotta be sharks. I don't know if the Louisiana part has salt water, but some areas in it does. Like, there's gonna be like a bull shark.
People think that everybody in Texas, where like rides a horse to work, and like there's tumbleweeds everywhere, like that kind of thing. Exactly. Yeah. It could
like
be
everybody's a cowboy.
that we're doing,
yeah.
which is very possible.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like I get it. Like absolutely alligators.
Yeah.
That was good.
So scary.
Good job. That was better than
exactly.
That was a nice break.
Yes. It still made you mad, but it had a happy ending.
Right.
For the most part. I wish she could have had the millions of dollars, but
yeah, same.
She ended up turning it around to be. And she, again, used her little money.
But also, does that give you like the biggest ego ever? Like,
yes.
This man's so obsessed with me. Like, we've had a court case for the past 10 years. Like, does that give you a big ego?
Oh my gosh, I wish.
Oh my god,
I hate it.
I wish I'm gonna be like, Richard, do you love me enough that you would stalk me if we ever got divorced?
If I was a worm,
he'd be like, no, I don't. He's like, I don't have time for that. I was a worm. Would you love me? I always give him a look. I'm like, you better say yes.
That was a good one. All right.
Ooh,
well, Storm, where can they find us if they want to hear more of us?
Yeah.
Thanks. We are on Facebook, Three Siblings Walk Into a Bar. We are on Instagram at 3SWIB Podcast. Go on there, like, comment, do all the things. Please give us, I was about to say interviews, not an interview.
Yeah, exactly.
What do we want?
Hey, if you want to do an interview, we'll do it.
We are happy to have you on here to do an interview. I really love doing those.
Yeah.
Yes.
What is it that I'm recommendations? Please, literally took me 5.5 years to figure out what story I was going to do. So please give us anything that you would like us to talk about. YouTube, go watch us on the tubes. Rate and review.
All right. Well, that's what happens when three siblings walk into a bar.